All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today's user group meeting. We probably will have some pretty low attendance virtually today, but we are recording this and are going to make it available online on the Learners platform within the next couple days. For anybody who is unable to join, then they are able to view it. But let's go ahead and get this kicked off. So just our quick agenda today, and I guess this might be my fault. I didn't update this. A lot of these individuals are actually at another conference right now. So we'll just give, I'll give the quick overview, and then we'll kind of muddle through this for as best as we can. But introductions. My name's Angela Holland, Chris Warren. Well, I'm on the, I'm the one of the chairs for the leaders platform, or sorry, I'm going to get this right. The Learners platform for dynamic communities for our Business Central Nav user group. Chris Warren is our not president, chair, whatever, but he's normally on here doing this and does a way better job than me, but he's not available today. Then we're going to go into summit updates where I believe Elizabeth is going to be able to give us those updates today. Yes. And then upcoming events, we'll turn it over to Blaine. And then we'll go into our educational sessions. We have two amazing speakers today. Gwendolynn Stearns and David Stevenson, who will provide their sessions. And then we'll have an open forum. And this will just be a way for you to take yourself off the microphone, ask questions, give feedback, et cetera. We're always looking to improve on things. And also, this is a user group meeting. So just as we would be sitting at a round table, you guys do have a voice and are able to ask questions or speak back. So, all right. So just real quickly, as far as introductions, if you haven't seen this yet, this is the 2026 board members for, again, the Dynamic Communities Business Central Nav user group. You've probably seen some correspondence from one or two of these individuals. And as always, thank you to them for their amazing contributions and time to put this together. This is our summit chairs. So we have Leanne, Paul, Elizabeth, McQuiston, and Andrew Good. Again, Elizabeth is going to be able to kind of give us our summit updates. And then she's going to take it away.
Yep. So this year we had over 2,000 submissions for presentations, which was an amazing number of sessions to cull through. So that was exciting. We also had a lot of new speakers this year, which is even more exciting. Getting more fresh people involved is a great thing. So we have total registrations is up. It's pretty good. 1,600, a little over 1,600 as of April. Of those, 465 are BC primary, which is fantastic. Lots of sponsors. It's going to be a big event. So that's great. We expect to have the session schedule or the list of sessions that are going to be presented released by May 20th, which is, I believe, next week. It's kind of hard to believe. And then there's some great, entertainment and stuff going to happen when we're in Nashville. And if you've never been to Nashville, it's a fantastic place. So that's all I've got. If anybody has any questions, you can certainly email me at any time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And then also, do you want to speak on some of the academy workshops that are going along with it?
This is just your regular, extended learning. If you're looking for more hands-on classroom type learning, this is the 2.5 days or 3 days before Summit, which is always great. These sessions are great, and they're usually given by amazing speakers that have been working in the system for a very long time. Can't speak to any of the other, like Copilot Boot Camp, or I don't know anything about those, but the Academy sessions are really good.
Yep, definitely.
Oh, the other thing to call out is that May 31st is the deadline to save $600, and it goes up to standard pricing. So if you are on the bubble of whether to go or not, you might want to decide before the end of this month. Hopefully we'll have that schedule out on the 20th as expected, so you can have an idea of the speakers and the sessions that are going to be offered.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. If there's any users that haven't been to the Academy workshops before, that are on this call or watching the video, I'd highly encourage it. It's awesome stuff. You got great teachers at those, great sessions, and a lot of great learning. So highly encourage that. I mean, I could take a hard look at that, summitna.com, and you can look at drill down into Academy from there.
Yeah, I think, sometimes here, well, is it worth it? Because there is an extra cost to these workshops. But absolutely, yes. Because if you think about it, when you're going to a conference, you have, maybe 45 minutes, an hour session that is tailored to, everybody, right? Or a wide variety of things. So a lot of the things that you're getting in those sessions are high level overviews, right? So these workshops are going to give you a day or two that you can go in and actually deep dive and get that individualized, stuff that like maybe you're needing. If you're thinking about, doing, I know like last year I was so disappointed because they had a fixed assets workshop, and, we had implemented fixed assets and, didn't take advantage of that. And then I was disappointed because during the sessions, nobody really touched much on fixed assets, right? So take a look at it. And if there's things that like you really want to dive deep into, definitely make sure you're checking those out. So yeah. All right. Again, this is our learners and webinar chairs. Myself, Shawn Dorward, and Blaine Pennypacker, and David Laster. And Blaine, I believe, is going to take it away I'm just going to kind of skip past this for a second, and he's going to talk about some events that are coming up.
Yeah, okay. Just keep these in mind. Coming up, road shows, Charlotte and Pittsburgh here coming up in June. June's almost here. So just like I always really say, Summit is an awesome one to go to. The road shows are sort of a mini compressed, single day summit, and traveling around the country. And so highly recommend, especially if it's in your area, well worth. Number one, they're free. So if you're able to just pay the transporting there and back or whatever, that's about all the cost you got sunk into these. So highly recommend signing up for these. You can go onto the site, the website, and onto the Dynamics Communities website and learners and sign up for these. So really take a look at the upcoming ones: Charlotte, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Toronto, Minneapolis, Montreal, etc. So coming up in the next couple of months. User group meetings, keep these dates in mind, just like this one here today. And you see some of the topics that are planned for those in June, July, August. So again, go into learners, real easy to sign up for the events like this, and sign up for them and get registered. That way it produces an Outlook or whatever link you have for your calendar, and you can get it on your calendar with the link and everything to join, just like all of you here are joined up. So highly recommend you look at those and sign up for them. Again, like Angela pointed out, it's more than just the topics at hand. It's also us as users and others that are joining on these to talk about what we're planning as a user community. So highly recommend you attend them.
All right, and just a little bit about some of the learners' progress. You know, we implemented learners, our dynamic communities implemented learners towards the beginning of the year, really kind of got it off and running. And, you know, they say, like, what is the difference of learners and the dynamic communities page, right? So learners is the platform where you can come together as a community, where you can hold your, you know, webinars, you can create meetups, you can, you know, it's kind of like the high level instructional, you know, place that we can go, where the dynamics communities is still the platform for, to, you know, to grab articles, and, you know, some high level content. But if you look at like the learner's progress, you can definitely see as we went on that, you know, it's just continuing to grow and grow. And we're getting more used to, that's not even proper English, but we're getting better at, you know, how to navigate the platform, how to, you know, post it in the event information and whatnot. But you can see that we have quite a bit of users now loaded into the platform. You know, the page views are going up, and there's already, you know, 26 future events that are created, you know, within the regions for this. But so definitely, you know, in this, I guess there's some things they wanted us to touch on is all the data is imported as far as like, I guess like the users and whatnot that need to be in there. And they are planning some better like marketing emails about what is the learners platform and stuff. So kind of be on the lookout for those. And as always, like they're just going to continue to develop this a little more and more, and as time goes on. Sorry, Blaine, I interrupted you. Back to upcoming webinars.
All right. I like that. I like it, switching it up, you know, but so yesterday was a great session, 10 Business Central setup tweaks that will create a world of difference. It actually was a great session. In fact, I shared it internally here for us to take a look at some setups that they were recommending. Todd and Janelle actually were giving that. And to Angela's point, if you look at the registrations, we had 130 and about 60 actually showed up live. Like Angela pointed out, it's kind of a rough week because of other conferences and stuff going on, but that's still far better than before learners. So last year when we were holding these, it was, you know, on average, probably less than 10 live attendees. So we're getting way better engagement from all of you and others in the user group. So I'm excited about that. Learners has been a great thing for us, I think, as a community. So that will be available here shortly. I have the link to share. So if you are on here and you missed that one, again, I highly recommend you take a look at it. Pretty soon you'll see a note going out on learners and notifying you, and should get an email as well, I believe, telling you that that's available. So I highly suggest you take a look at it then. Coming up, we got June is on the 10th, manufacturing tips to streamline operations in Business Central with Julie Burton. Got about 51 registrations as of yesterday. And then we have Bean Counting 101, inventory costing in BC. So, and it's the fun side. So who knew? But Telka Clem is giving that in July. We have a couple that I'm working with, some speakers for August and September in the works. So stay tuned. Those will be getting put out hopefully in the next within the next couple of weeks here. So if you're interested in speaking, in giving some of your expertise and lending that out to the user group as a whole, please reach out, touch base with David or I. My LinkedIn QR code's there is one way to get a hold of me, or find me through the Dynamics communities or the learner sites. So that should do it. And Angela, thanks.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to get into go to our first session. We have Gwendolynn Stearns. Gwendolynn, if you want to just take yourself off of mute and share your screen, I will stop sharing mine now.
Sure. I'm not able to share my screen. Oh, wait, there it is.
Yeah, so in here we have to stop sharing. And then
I got you. Let's see here. Window. Entire screen. There we go. I'm a Teams girl, so you guys have to pardon me as I navigate the software. So, all right. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you letting me sign up for this. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. All right. So I've been working with this product since 1999. And as you guys, I'm sure, have noticed in the last few years, a lot has changed. I mean, it's been changing and updating, but I think there's some fundamental foundational changes that I want to point out so that you can leverage this new, functionality that's available. So what I want to talk about is really sort of a modern view of things, right? We used to have different systems that we had to do, hourly updates or nightly updates to get the same data in the same, in another place so I could view it differently. And that's all changed. And that's what I want to kind of focus on today. So let's go to Pando. So Pando, this is also known as the trembling giant. He's a quaking aspen that lives in Fish Lake National Forest. So this is in Utah. And he's estimated at 10,000 years old. And why do I keep saying he? Well, this is a single male organism. So this forest that's changing colors at the same time is really one organism. Let's go to the next slide. So this has a root system that connects everything. So this foundation underneath, right? And the trees are really 47,000 stems that all come from this foundation. So part of the success and longevity is due to this powerful, well-established foundation. And so what I want to do is sort of tap into how the modern cloud ecosystem is sort of built like Pando now. And these are things that we should be looking for in our systems and actually with the system that you have today to see how you could leverage this. So on the surface here, you see all these different separate pieces, just like we have separate applications, but they really have this underlying layer where we're using it to access. So what I want to do is walk you through the connected capabilities and what they can look like in practice, and maybe give you guys some ideas as to how you can work more effectively with some of the tools that you have, and or turn on some of these pieces of functionality and start using them in a better way. All right. So let's go to the next slide, or no, to my software. Let's go to software. Hold on. I have 14,000 screens. There we go. Ta-da. All right. All right, so here's Business Central. So for the purposes of this demonstration, right, this is my foundation, right? This is that root system. This is the base where the data is. So what I want to do is just show you some different concepts of how we can use these different tools to tap into this foundation. So let's start with one that we're all pretty familiar with, and that's Excel. So first of all, I'm going to open up my customers, and I should pause for a moment here. I am in the cloud, right? This is SaaS. All of my tools are on the same tenant, and that's how these all work, right? So if they're not in the same tenant, that tenant is that root structure. And so in order for this to work, these tools have to be anchored to that same tenant. All right. So some of you, depending on where you are in your versions, might not have this capability yet, but this might drive some decisions about the future for you. All right. So here are my customers. Right now, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to focus on Excel. So let's say that I realize, one of our salespeople left, and I need to go through and reassign all the accounts, right? I could go through record by record and reassign the accounts to the new salesperson, or I could leverage the ability to edit in Excel. So we'll just launch that. And what that does is it puts somewhere on a mystery screen. Oh, here we go. There we go. It puts all the data into Excel. After I sign in, there's lots of securities about this, around this. I actually signed into everything before I joined this call, but of course, something's refreshed and now I got to do it again. All right. So all that data, all the data for all of my customers came into this screen, and now it's being presented here with, so now I have the ability to go through here and do my edits. So I'm able to say, all right, let's take all of Dwight Schrute's customers and we're going to reassign them all to Jim. And then I'll just update that. So now I'm using a tool I'm familiar with data that's based from Business Central. And let's put in a salesperson that doesn't exist. Mose, he doesn't work for us. So now when I click publish, it's going back to that foundation and it's updating all those records, and it's going to flag the one that doesn't work because Mose doesn't work for us and this isn't valid data. So now again, it's working with that foundation and it's done that update on the other side. So I can close this. I don't even have to save it. And then let's go to the list view here. All of these, all the Dwight Schrutes, if I refresh the screen, have been changed. The one that I switched to Mose that didn't take remained the same, right? So not only do we have access to that same underlying data, but we still have the permissions and the validations that are associated with that underlying data. Right. Before I move on, just to make sure the concept happened, does anybody have any questions at this point? All right, let's do another one. Let's look at our items here. All right, I sell a lot of products to coyotes and roadrunners. So let's go ahead and take a look at my DIY tornado kit here. And this, again, I'm going to just extend on the Excel functionality. So I have my item ledger entries, right? All the data that's in here. I am able to open this data in Excel. Here we go. All right. Make this bigger. And now I'm able to leverage Copilot, another tool that's sitting on top of this data. And I can go ahead and start doing my analysis using Copilot as a tool here, right? I want to calculate my gross margin, and it will go ahead and go through and leverage that. So one of the things I want to introduce, I guess, to this conversation is the fact that AI is yet another tool that we can extend from the database, right? So there are ways, even if you're not using Copilot, there are other AI engines that can connect, and you're able to, again, use this tool looking into that foundational data and work with it in a way that's meaningful to you. I actually thought this would be a lot faster than it is. All right. Let's go over here. And I think it's all done now. There we go. All right, so it's updated the spreadsheet, right, with this data. Let me go ahead and close this out. All right. I think, yeah, let's look at the last piece for the for Excel. You do have in Excel the ability to connect to the underlying data in Business Central. And so what I've done is I have a pre-configured balance sheet that's in here. Also, I don't have a financially healthy demo database, so don't judge any of these numbers. But you're able to go in here, and again, you can have this template where now you're going in and you're just refreshing the data, right? So you have this query, you're going to connect to the underlying data that's in Business Central, and you're just refreshing this, right? So you're not having to rebuild your financials every month. You're just refreshing the data, right, with this connector. Again, with the tool, a lot of people, if they are heavy into Excel, if they're already comfortable in there, and it's just easier for them to pull the data from Business Central into Excel and just do the refresh that way rather than the converse from Business Central. And I want to say, from a change management standpoint, when you're introducing new software to people, if they can continue to leverage the tools that they're familiar with to access the accounting software, it tends to sort of, grease the wheels, right? Makes it a little bit easier for them. All right, let's talk about Word. Any questions about that? Oh, wait, I see there's a chat. Do I need to be aware of this?
No, we'll watch the chat for you. I think this one, they were just asking where to find the session.
That's fine. Can you monitor that? To answer anything?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's talk about Word. So, and this is, let me go back to my tile view because then I remember who's who and what's what. There we go. Prestige Worldwide. So this customer has their own way of wanting to view things. So I am able to leverage Word to create customer and vendor facing documents that meet their needs. Let's go ahead and export this so you can see it. Yep. And we're ignoring that message for right now. There we go. Okay. And let's make this bigger. All right. So this is another one where we're able to connect to Business Central from Word. And I'm going to click on this. These are all the fields that are available in the sales order, right? So even if you were to if you had an add-on, it will just be here because it is the underlying data. If you added, God forbid, custom fields, they would just be here, right? So anything that you've added to the system, we're not having to do anything special to get it over here into Word so that now I can put it onto a document. It's there because we are looking at the actual data. And I'm just using this customer facing document as an example, but you can also use Word for your vendor facing documents, and all the fields would be there as well. Just on a side note, if you needed to change like your terms and conditions, you would be able to come in here and just make a change, and you're not having to contact your partner for development work because you're handling it. So the idea here is we're giving you tools so that you can be more self-reliant and not have to necessarily look at development or contact your partner. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Teams. Let's see, where did I bury that? There we go. Okay. So Teams connects to Business Central as well. I'm not going to launch my actual Teams because all my coworkers will see me come online and they will attack me. So I'm going on my demo online to keep it sort of contained here. But in Teams, we're able to collaborate with others. So let's see here. This is one. This is actually a well, I'll show you that in a minute. Let me go ahead. I can basically say, hey, I want to connect to Business Central. And then I want to do a search. So I'm going to search for Pam Beasley. And then I will open this up. So while I'm collaborating with others, we're able to bring up this information, right, within Teams. Let's say that I wanted to send it and say, hey, can you approve this, right? If they had permission to get into Business Central, they would be able to click on the details and just dive into Business Central, review the document, make any or record and make any changes. But the idea here again is that we have this information is within Business Central and we're just presenting it in Teams. And from here you could say, hey, looks good, or click on the details And now it's pulling up that underlying details from Business Central. But you're going to have to believe me on this one. There we go. So that's another way that we can leverage one of these stems, right, to access the data. Let's go over here now. Let's look at our budgets. And then from Business Central, we can access it as well. Let's see, this is 2005. Let's try this again. 25. There we go. Let's get some data in here. All right. So let's say we're collaborating with others. You know, I finished my piece of the budget. I need another department to complete their piece of the budget. I'm able to share to teams, right? And I just say which chat I want to add this to. Share. And now it will pop up in that chat. And this person now could go to their link and go in, and again, we can collaborate with each other on work through Teams. If that's something that we already use internally, right, that might be helpful. So let's see. And that's this over here. All right. So it will go to everybody within that chat. All right. So let's talk about SharePoint. I've got my journals over here. And I just want to bring up SharePoint. SharePoint, again, now this is kind of the contra. A lot of people, they want to store documents within Business Central, which of course, you know, there are ways to do that. But then you're expanding the size of Business Central and you don't have as much control over the documents. So one example might be storing your documents in SharePoint, which now is its own foundation, and we're using Business Central to reveal those documents. So I have a link here. This is the invoice that came in. I've put it in SharePoint, and it's, by the way, it's really creative. So, you know, anyway, there's my fake demo invoice for that line that corresponds to that line. But because I put it in SharePoint now, of course, I have the tools to give permissions to people to edit this, or who can see this. And, you know, we have all those tools there, but we're, again, using, in this case, Business Central is the stem to present the data that's being stored in SharePoint. All right. Let's go to Power BI.
Hey,
Yeah.
Gwen, I don't know. This was for a couple of topics ago, but Mike Wall did put in the chat, why, God forbid, custom fields?
Oh, because I wrote that? Because I said that?
I guess.
Okay, so okay. After that's a good question. So basically, I feel like between the dimensions, the posting groups, there's a lot of information that we can, or a lot of existing data that we can already leverage, a lot of tools that we can already leverage. And I often see people come in and go, well, can we just have like 20 user defined fields? And that's fine. But then the next question is, do you want functionality on those fields? You know, oh, we want this all on the customer card. Oh, well, why don't I see it on the sales order? Why don't I see it on this report? Well, you said you just wanted this one field, but now you want it to travel through the system. So it ends up being this like can of worms or a slippery slope where people are like, we just need a few custom fields. And I'm like, well, hold on. Why? Where do we need to see this? Is there functionality tied to it? No, we just need to see it here. And eventually down the line, we end up hearing you know, how come I'm not seeing it on this report? Because you didn't say you need to see on this report, right? So, so I'm okay with custom fields. Just having a smattering of them to have, I think, warrants a deeper discussion. And so, because otherwise you end up with unhappy people in the long run, because it's not you know, the function, a lot of times the functionality isn't there that they really wanted. They thought by putting the field there, they would, you know, they could do all these things with it. So that's why I said God forbid, because it just seems like a simple thing and it just kind of tends to snowball. So they can be there. But I think we need a compelling argument as to why they're there and what they need to do before we start going down that path. I hope that answers your question. So, all right. Did he log off? Did we lose Mike?
I guess, Mike, if you want to take yourself off of mute and say something, it's either good or bad or more detail.
Like, did I hit the mark or? I'm here. Thanks. All right. Thanks, Mike. All right. All right. It teach me to say something off the cuff like that, right? Okay. So where am I now? Okay. Power BI. So Power BI, let's open this up. Open up the first one here. So this is one of the financial dashboards that, again, don't judge my company. The coyotes and, you know, road owners don't, my business is a mess. So Power BI dashboards, the ability to create your own dashboards comes with the system, right? So if you want to just sit down at your workstation, you get this with Business Central, and it will tap into Business Central. It actually can tap into other data sources as well. And you can kind of pull data together. That said, if you want to collaborate with others, so you create this amazing, beautiful Power BI dashboard, and you want to push it out to other people's workstations, you can either go sit down at each of their workstations and rebuild it, or you can get an extended license. I think it's $10 or $12 a month to be able to collaborate with others, and then, you know, push out these Power BI dashboards. And if you make changes, push out those updates. So I told you that story to tell you this one. So Microsoft has come up with a series of Power BI dashboards that are fantastic, and I want to show them to you. You connect them to your database, you download them. I have no Power BI dashboard skills at all. And this is just an example of one of them. So because I am collaborating with Microsoft to get these dashboards, it doesn't require that extended license. But they're beautiful, and they're a great starting point if you want to create your own dashboards. And so I just want to show them to you because there's something that's, I want to say newly available, but it's more like in the last couple of years. And I think they did a bang up job. So let me just show you. So this is one of them. This is my financial dashboard. Let's just look at a couple of others, just so you can kind of get a different flavor for, you know, what they can look like. So let's go to the customers again, and I'll just expand this one. And I kind of picked different views to show you, just so you can see how they might vary. Let's see here. Yeah, so we have sales overview, you know, so they have, the data can be presented in a variety of ways, right? You could also just see, you know, pretty raw data, and then you can expand it and see the underlying data there. Let me just move to another one. Look at our items. All right, and this is the inventory by lot page on Power BI. So again, it's just these different views, and it might inspire you to create your own for things that you need to see. And again, this is Power BI. In this case, it's looking at my Business Central data. It can incorporate other data. If you have multiple companies within one database within Business Central, you can have it look at those multiple companies and bring information together. And I'm viewing this from within Business Central, but you can certainly launch this outside of Business Central. And so now it's its own stem, right? That's just pulling in the data. You don't have to log into Business Central. You'll be able to see it because it's all in the same tenant. And just to give you an idea of what they've done here. Where is it? There it is. I mean, there's a whole slew of them, right? That are available to you. And then what they've incorporated them into the system into like this drop down, but then they have others that you can download and you can link to your database. Okay, I see some questions here. Let's see. We have compelling reasons. Okay. If you have Power BI, if you have BI dashboard development experience, can you add custom fields to the dashboards? Yes, you can, Mike. And I appreciate your ahem. Yes, anything, again, it's looking at the data structure within Business Central. So if you've added well thought out custom fields that we feel good about, you absolutely would be able to access those from your Power BI dashboard. All right. And then let's go to Outlook. All right, guys, I'm going too fast here. I'm going to need more questions. Okay. So this is Outlook. It's the old version of Outlook. I have my reasons. I'm going to connect to Business Central from Outlook. So here I have received an invoice from a vendor and I don't want to type it in. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to Business Central. This particular vendor is also a customer, which is a scenario that can happen sometimes. So we rent from them. So I'm saying, okay, in this instance, I'm getting a bill from my vendor. That's the hat they're wearing. So I click on the vendor and now it brings up that vendor's account. Let's bring this a little bit bigger. And from here, I'm able to go in. I could look at my outstanding invoices. All right. Hey, they already billed me for the same thing. Imagine that. So I get this little snapshot view. Again, it's Business Central. If I had any links to any documents, maybe contracts, I'd see them. Any notes about this vendor, I'd see them, because this is Business Central, right? It's just being presented in Outlook. So now they're saying, okay, here's a bill. Normally, you don't get the details of the bill in the body of the invoice or the body of the email. So in this case, I'm just going to send this to my incoming documents, right? Or not. Or if that stops working randomly because you have an audience, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, let's create a new purchase invoice. And it actually is going to read the body of the email and queue up what that invoice should look like. All right. And now the invoice is in the system. And I could go in here and I could start typing things and making edits. And I'm really not, it's actually in the system. So right now, if I were to go in there 1092, let's go back to Business Central. Purchase invoices. Let's see. There it is, right? So again, I'm working with that underlying structure, but I'm able to do it from Outlook, right? Without having to open the accounting software. Likewise, let's open this up. And there we go. If a customer were to send me an order, the same thing, right? So if I'm a salesperson and I've got customers contacting me via email, like I said, this one's also a customer. So again, I can read the information right away. Oh, wait, there's something past due. Maybe I want to contact them. Maybe I want to generate a statement from this screen and respond to them with that statement attached. I can do that, right? And it's creating a statement in Business Central, right? So these are just some high-level concepts of how you might want to start leveraging these tools, and really leveraging that connectivity, so that we're not having to duplicate efforts, right? We're just using tools we're familiar with to interact with the same data. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
I think there's a question in the chat. Is there any special setup required to do this other than connecting BC with Outlook? And is Outlook required?
Yeah, so with the Outlook one, that's not what I wanted to click on. There we go. So with Outlook, you will need to add the 2 apps. So the apps are, it's called Contact Insights. And I've seen it in the App Store as like Business Central for Outlook. I've also seen Contact Insights. The other one is, it's a new document app. So let's see. So you'll go to your all apps, and then this is what you want to look for. The Business Central app. Let's say. And then here, I'll try to show you from here. And then here we go. And here's the other one. So the document one is the one that will, it can do a couple, actually, let's say like a customer sends you an email and they're like, what's the status of my order? And then they give you the order number. It will see that and highlight it, and you can click on it in Outlook, and it will show you a really little snapshot of like what lines have shipped on that order. So you'd be able to respond to them. So this is the first one that you need in order to connect with Business Central. But this is a nice add-on that they work together in tandem. So you might want both. Let's see. What other questions? Okay. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, just also, Kim, the first time I set this up, I don't even remember how many years ago it was, but I'm like clunking along because I live in Business Central. I am not technical at all outside of Business Central. And I'm like following the bouncing ball, like click, click, click. And then just things happened and I felt like a wizard. So it actually is really cool and it works great. So yeah, so hopefully everything's on the same tenant and you're able to do that easily. Are there any other questions? All right, guys.
Yeah. Hey, Gwen, can you show me how to look for the those 2 apps again? I'm having an issue. Like I'm trying to search my all apps and I don't see it.
Sure. Let's do that. So I have them. These are approved by my organization, so they're conveniently already grouped together. Let's see if there's a. I don't know if the screenshot helps you. Let's see. Is that helpful? Or let me see if I can search for it over here. Search for apps. Business Central. Yeah, if I search for Business Central, it comes up over here. You guys seeing that or no? Oh, we have policies in our organization that don't allow so we do too. And that's why I see mine already approved by my organization. So that's actually a good point, Leslie. You might have to get those apps approved by your organization in order to install them. Yeah.
I bet you that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I bet you that's it. So then let's show you the other. So the 2, there was the Business Central one, and then here we go. The document view. Those are the 2 apps you'll want them to approve. And I mean, it's legitimate. We've been seeing apps come through that look, and I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but they look very compelling and like they are, you know, whatever software they're linked to, right? They look like they're an app generated by that software, and then we find out they're not. And so, you know, at this point with AI and accidentally signing your life away, I do understand why, annoying as it is, companies really do need to vet these things before we're allowed to install them. So, okay. All right.
I have one more question. Yeah, I have one more question on this. So do these work with like shared inboxes? I'm just thinking about like accounts payable. We have a special email address for that.
They do. In fact, we've had problems where people like everything comes into the sales inbox and then they want it. You can actually send the email into Business Central, but then it gets attached to like not the salesperson. So you absolutely can have it with a shared inbox. That's fine. In fact, if you're sitting at your computer, I'm going to put something in the chat just to really blow you guys' mind. Stearns at the365demo.com. All right. Someone send me a test email and everyone's going to see it, so be nice. So. And no one? No one? Okay, how do you refresh in this version? Did anybody send me an email? No?
I will. What?
I did. I sent one.
Okay.
You did? Okay, great. Let's see. Come on. There we go. Hey, thanks, Kim. So watch this. So now I connect. And I don't know you. Nice to meet you. So it's saying, hey, do you want to add Kim as a contact? Yes, I do. And then it's asking if you're a person or a company. If your company was already in my system, then I'd be able to just select that and it would attach you. Otherwise, it'll just add you as a new person in my system. So I'm going to go, okay. And now you're a contact in my system. So let's see here. This is oops, I clicked on the wrong one. Here we go. It's this one. All right. So if we go in now, contacts. Where are you, Kim? Actually, I can see you already. There you are. All right. So I'm definitely going to email you now and call you. So no. So the connection works. You can actually link even to emails. I had at one point set up a sweep that would go to take emails automatically from a specific box and create email links and or contacts. And let me just go to Pam here. Pam Beasley again, Dunder Mifflin. So for instance, what will happen is you'll start to see it'll connect these emails to that contact. And if there is an actual corresponding email, it will show as an attachment here, and you would be able to now open Outlook and it will open that email. All right. So just another way that these things can be connected and create efficiencies. All right. Now she's hounding her administrators. Okay, so any other questions? All right. So I don't know what that means. Do we have 5 more minutes or?
That's okay. We can, I mean, as long as David's ready. If you just want to stop, thank you so much for.
Poor David's running from the kitchen. Yeah, okay.
But if you just stop sharing your screen, then David should be able to take over the screen share now, and then we could just jump right into his session.
Great. Well, and thank you everybody for your great questions. I appreciate it.
Okay, great presentation. I'm trying to get several screens going here so I can keep an eye on any chat stuff that might happen. So let's see if the screen share actually works and if I can pick the right screen. Okay, let's see. Got too many screens up at the moment. All right, how about that?
That will work. Yeah.
Okay. So let me do that. Okay. So are you seeing? Okay, I lose the chat when I go full screen. Are you seeing it full screen now?
Yes, so we see the screen, but it is just the PowerPoint, not like the full PowerPoint. Not the view
okay.
presentation screen, but the
Yeah.
it
Is that
works.
okay? Is
Yeah.
that okay?
I think
Okay,
so.
well, let's
I
just
mean,
do
I
it
can
that
see
way,
it.
because that way I can keep an eye on the chat also. And if I don't notice something that somebody's put in the chat, if somebody could call it out to me, that would be great.
Sure.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about solving BC integration challenges with Azure functions. This presentation grew out of one of our many experiences in moving from NAV on-premise to BC in the cloud. We started with NAV 2013 and moved to NAV 2017. And then a year and a half ago, we moved to BC in the cloud. And so over that time that we were running two major versions of NAV, we developed a lot of integrations and a lot of connectivity. We have old FoxPro programs running factory processes. Some of those programs were written 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and they have morphed over the years. When we went to NAV 2013, I wrote a bunch of web service interfaces so that the Fox programs could talk to BC through web services. In fact, we still had our order entry in FoxPro, and we were pushing orders into BC or into NAV from our highly configured screens in FoxPro. Then went to NAV 2017. We integrated a CPQ, Expert Logics, and we also went to Dynamic CRM as the place that quotes originate and turn into orders, and Expert Logics is involved on that side. Then we use CRM to NAV integration to pull orders down into NAV for production. And we also pull all of that information that Expert Logics has stored about all the configurations, all of the factory data that's needed that goes into custom tables in NAV. We pull all of that down in XML format and then store it into an Expert Logics table in NAV for each sales order. Lots of other things. So as you know, or you may know, when you move to BC in the cloud, everything that interfaces with BC in terms of any programming interface has to change. Our FoxPro programs and other programs, even spreadsheets, were talking directly to the SQL data on our local SQL server. We could just directly query the NAV tables there. And so all of that had to be rewritten to talk through APIs to the data in the cloud. And we hit a particular situation that we couldn't resolve without using an Azure function. And so I'm going to explain a little bit of that today. Now, this is going to be a little bit technical at times, but I want you all to see the big picture here of how an Azure function can serve a purpose in special circumstances. So let me give just a little info on myself. As you just heard, I'm a longtime FoxPro programmer. That started many years ago, and I do SQL Server, C#.NET, web services, NAV, CAL coding, BCAL, nav to CRM integration, web development, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, I could add a few more of those since I did this slide back in October, because we're constantly learning things here. So this is my basic IT survival skill credo. Keep adapting, never stop learning, and always be ready to go on an IT adventure. Because every day when we walk in, you don't know what's going to happen. And we're a fast growing company. They've acquired several other companies. We're integrating things. We have a whole new product development team. Our business is manufacturing. We manufacture high accuracy flow meters and BTU meters, particularly for the HVAC market. And so HVAC systems going into big buildings use our products to feed data into their control systems. And so things are growing fast, changing fast. And of course, you all know that technology is changing fast too. So it's always an adventure around here. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of Azure Functions, a little bit more about the way we did this Experlogics data move in Nav, and then how we addressed it in an Azure function. So Azure Function serverless resources is one of the buzzwords that you'll find on the Microsoft site to refer to lots of a la carte services. Azure Blob Storage is one, where you can just store data into an Azure container, a blob storage container, and not have to host it on your own server. And then you can get to that data in the cloud through various methods. Azure File Storage, this is one we're using right now. Our factory processes, when we calibrate one of these high accuracy flow meters, there's a certificate created in PDF that we wanted to get into our Data Haven document management system. Now that we're in BC, BC is there, Data Haven is there in the cloud, hosted, and we can't talk directly to it. So what do? When they create those certificates, we plop it up into an Azure file storage, which looks like just a normal folder structure. We've got it configured, and you can even map drive letters to it. So we can put those files up there, and then I have a piece of BC code that nightly runs on a job queue and looks at the latest files that have entered into a certain folder. We pull them down. I use some APIs to write it, or I shouldn't say pull them down. We pull it across to our BC in the cloud environment and use some AL code to write it into Data Haven attached to the actual programming data record in our system for that meter. So now somebody calls in with a service request, our service people can go to that particular record, and they've got the certificate sitting right there. So Azure serverless resources are great for things like that. Azure Functions are a way to host logic in the cloud and allow it to be accessed by various other programs. And I mean, the variety is amazing, the ways that you can talk to this. The logic can be coded in a variety of programming languages. I use C# because that's my primary programming language in .NET languages. And it's great for reusing or repurposing existing code or existing processes you have without having to host it on a server you control and making it available from a BC environment running in the cloud. Because my BC environment running in the cloud isn't going to reach down and talk to my local SQL server or my local application servers or whatever. It's going to need to have another way to get to that data. Azure Functions run off of triggers. And so we're going to use the HTTP trigger, which means we're going to send a request to a URL on the web. And the Azure function that I have published that's tied to that URL will pick up the request the moment that URL is hit, and it will run whatever it needs to run and return back a response. But look at this. You can also tie Azure functions to a timer. You can set up something to run at scheduled intervals. A blob trigger, we talked about that earlier. If you store something into a blog, you can have an Azure function that's tied to that event and have it take a look what was just uploaded and catalog it into a database or whatever. A queue trigger. I don't know if any of you ever worked with Microsoft message queuing. Same kind of a thing here. Azure Storage Queue message received, and that kicks off a process. So here's what we had. I described this a little bit. We're bringing down compressed Experlogix configurator XML from CRM when sales orders are imported into BC. And we had to do that in Nav by creating our own .NET DLL that could be called from a Nav code unit, because we had to use a lot of Experlogix provided DLLs that know how to talk to their compressed and encoded XML that's stored in a table in CRM, and how to get that for a particular CRM sales order, decompress it, insert it into BC or insert into Nav, into a record tied to the sales order we've just brought down from CRM. And then we also use that same thing to read the XML in Nav, parse through it, and populate our custom factory tables. So we're using their .NET DLLs to get the data, insert it into BC, and then read it from BC when needed to parse the XML and populate custom tables. So here's what that XML looks like, just the top of it to give you an idea of what we're dealing with. The issue is we couldn't call .NET DLL the way we used to be able to do in Nav. And so here's the way it looked in Nav. Right here, this is Nav CAL code where I'm instantiating right here config mover d365.config mover. That's a .NET DLL that I've registered in Nav, and in Nav code I can just talk to it, and I can make a call here, transfer Experlogix configuration from XML, pass in a couple of parameters, the GUID of the CRM sales order and the sales order we just created in Nav, and then it goes off and does its thing. And here's some of the Experlogix DLLs that had to be wrapped up into that master DLL to make that all work. So here you can see I'm calling, this is C# code, I'm calling that transfer function, and then I'm reading the decompressed from CRM, and then I'm writing the decompressed as compressed into Nav or BC. So how do we do that? We're going to create an Azure function. And anybody got any questions at this point, by the way? Okay, so how do we create an Azure function? It's really quite simple. I say that as a programmer. Might not be simple for everybody on the call, but you don't need much. Visual Studio Community Edition is sufficient to create an Azure function. And you just go in, create a new project like you would for anything, and choose Azure Functions. And then that will set up a simple thing. You give a name to your project. You have to point it to a certain folder. You pick your .NET Framework version. I was running this under isolated version 4. I think that you have to pick a higher numbered one now. And then you choose your trigger type. And as I said, there are a lot of triggers. And so just about any type of logic call that you need to make can be wrapped in an Azure function. So voila, after going through that initial startup, you get a hello world function. And this is the C# programming. You can see right here, this function, and then the name function1. That's what's going to appear in Azure admin console tied to this Azure function app. And it will show this function1 as an available call that you can make to that Azure function. And it just gives you basically a hello world type of a return. But it's not live yet until you publish it. So from right in Visual Studio, you can create a brand new Azure function app. And or you can, in the admin interface, the Azure admin, you can go to functions and you can create a new function there and then just point to it in your Visual Studio. But it's pretty simple just to create a brand new one there. You have to, I don't know if any of you have worked with Azure portal very much, but any service you use there, you have to have a subscription that you're going to tie it to. And so you choose your subscription, and then we are creating this new function app. It automatically names it for you. Subscription, you choose your resource group or create a new resource group, and then you choose your plan. For a low volume thing like this, we're just using a consumption plan. That means we only get charged a penny or a fraction of a penny every time we call it. You can also, if you got a very high volume type of service, then you can choose a different type of plan. So you add to that in other pieces of C# code, you add whatever functions you need. So here you can see I've added a brand new function called move CRM configuration XML to BC. And I'm taking query string parameters. That URL that we're going to call, we're going to have question mark CRM order good equals, and then the good, ampersand CRM organization equals, and whatever. So we pass in the parameters that are needed right on the URL, and then this can, or they can be packed into the body of the request also. And then in the BC code unit that calls the Azure function, I'm going to set it up in the body. And it's really nice. BC about, I don't know, version 24, 25, maybe, I don't know, Brad might know. They simplified the way you call Azure functions from inside BC code. They've created several libraries, and so you got Azure Functions Authentication interface, and you got an Azure Functions Response object. And so it's very simple to just set up the authentication to your URL. And I'm not going to show that entire URL, obviously, for security purposes. And then you just send your request off, and I'm passing in this query dictionary, those 5 things, I'm passing that in with the request. And the Azure function here can actually read it from the URL parameters, or it can read it from the body. They all come in as query parameters on the request. So we take that, we set some of things up, and then we call into my actual logic. So the way I structured it, I have this Azure function call in my C# code, and then it's calling the CRM to BC config mover. That's another piece of C# code that's in the same project. And that's where all my logic is to actually do the work. And so make those calls. Here's what the URL stuff looks like. You put in your Azure function name dot Azure websites .net .api dot, and then the name of your function you're going to call. And then you pass in your client's secret that has been set up for security purposes. Here's what the Azure portal shows for this. There's my hello world function 1 that it automatically created for me. And then here's other function calls that I have created. So get BC configuration when I need to read it back to parse it and put the data into our custom tables. We've got get CRM if I just need to read it from CRM. And then we got this one that encapsulates a get CRM and a write to BC. It's all in this function call right here. And then in the Azure portal, you have lots of metrics available. And so you can see how often things have been called, how long each call takes. And I was frankly stunned the first time I finished coding this thing. And I was expecting there to be some delay because we were accustomed here to calling a .NET DLL in nav on-premise and having it talk to our CRM database, which was in on-premise, and pull that data and write it back into BC all on local servers. And it was really fast. So I was expecting, oh man, this may be really bad. Well, let's take a look. I'm going to play this little video for you, and I'll explain what's happening here. This is our sales order table, and I've got a few Explogix menu options hanging off of the actions, kind of hidden away. Nobody ever uses them unless we're trying to troubleshoot something. So the first one is going to make a call to the get XML from BC. And it's going to call the Azure function through an HTTP call. The Azure function is going to go into the BC database using an API of some kind and using their DLLs, and it's going to extract that XML from BC that's tied to this particular sales order, and then it's going to show me the first 1,000 characters of it. So here we go. Let's look. I'm clicking on actions. I'm going down, and I'm going to say show. There's the click, and there it is. Boom. The first time I saw that, I about fell off of my chair. How can it possibly be that fast? But it's BC in the cloud that's making a call to an Azure function in the cloud that's getting the data from BC database in the cloud and popping it right back into my user interface. So it's more than tolerable. It was amazingly fast. Now let's do the whole process. This one is going to query from CRM, the XML from the CRM in the cloud, and pull it down, insert it into BC. Okay. We've had to use this occasionally when the data did come down, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. We'll have one sales order where the process got interrupted. So there we go. It's done. That was what, 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds max. And that XML can be over a meg in size. So more than an adequate solution for what we needed. So any questions at this point? Oh my goodness, I lost my mouse. There it is. Okay, so I want to talk for a moment about another way that we're using Azure functions. We have always in our Experlogics system, we have always had to enter items that we're selling as quantity 1 because all of our products are highly configured, and for the factory processes, we get a production order for each individual meter or BTU calculator that we're selling. And they each have labels that go on them. They're each individually serialized. And we made the decision way back in NAV 2017 implementation to go quantity 1 because they're so highly configured. And the data is different on even on the same order. You might have 15 turbine meters that all have different settings. And so we're not going to do one production order with a quantity 15, and we're not going to do a sales line with a quantity 15. But for our sales reps, making initial quotes to a customer, like a building contractor, let's say, who's putting in all the equipment into a big building, they want to be able, the reps want to be able to quote in quantities. And so they've used their own systems to design quotes and all of that. They started bugging us to come up with a portal of some kind for where they could enter quotes into CRM through a portal and send those out. And then they've got to be able to get into Experlogics to do that. So we came up with a Power Pages portal, which we're going to be going live with sometime in the next 3 months. And to meet that need of the reps, a pure business need that we had, we said, okay, let's enable entry of quantities for quoting purposes. So let's say I need an F1000 turbine flow meter. I need 15 of those. Even though they're going to be calibrated slightly differently, different pipe sizes, maybe different flow rates, but they want to be able to quote it in a quantity. We don't want then the rep or our internal people to have to take that quantity quote and enter it as individual lines. So we came up with the idea of an Expandomatic, which fell to me to create. And in that, we're going to read the Experlogics XML. We're going to analyze it and see how many nodes there are in the XML that represent a meter, and look for any that have a quantity greater than 1. And then we're going to call Experlogics functions, which are in their .NET DLLs. And we're going to, for instance, a quantity 15, we're going to change the quantity on that first item to quantity 1, and we're going to insert 14 more configurations. And if necessary, we're going to move other things down that would be coming next on the sales order. So there's a lot of processing going on, calling into Experlogics standard functions through their API. But we have to use their DLLs to do that. So we said, okay, Azure function, we can do that. and I started experimenting. I got a basic thing working. But then we realized some of these orders are so big, and this is a very intensive process, particularly if we need to move other things down in the XML and also in the order, where we're going to, let's say we have line item 1 is a flow meter quantity 15. Line item 2 is a BTU meter. Well, we want line item 2 to be the second flow meter, and we want that BTU meter to end up line 16 on the order. So I'm having to overwrite it if it's there and then add it later at the right position so that everything lines up properly and isn't a big jumbled mess. So a lot of intensive stuff, and I got to realizing it's possible on some of these large orders that we might exceed 3 minutes and 50 seconds. What do you think that number represents? Three minutes and 50 seconds is the maximum time that an HTTP triggered Azure function can run before it times out. And what if something times out while my process is running and it hasn't completed all of its changes to that quote yet in CRM? So we looked at Azure durable functions, which is another option. And a durable function is really cool. I'll show you just a little piece of code. Those of you that aren't coders, you're getting a little glimpse into my world. And I hope it doesn't blow you away too much. Okay, dragging, can you see that? I've got it onto the right screen. Acknowledge. Hello, is anybody there?
Hi, sorry, we only see your PowerPoint still.
Okay, so now do you see this coming in?
No.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you what it is.
Sorry.
The Azure function I showed you earlier, you remember it had a function call like get XML, whatever. And the HTTP call hits that function. It goes off, does its thing, comes back and returns a response unless it times out at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. An Azure durable function can run for days if necessary. We're not going to take that long, but just in case we had a large order that might exceed the normal time limits of an Azure function, we're putting this expandomatic into a durable function. And what happens there is the durable function code is divided into a startup call, an orchestrator piece of code, and one or more activity pieces of code. And so the startup function is what you hit when you hit the URL. And it basically calls into the orchestrator piece of code and says, go do your thing. And then it immediately returns a response back to the user. Now, obviously, the response that comes back can't say the function is finished. That's normally what you get when you call a normal Azure function. You wait and wait and wait, however long it takes, and then you get a response back. But here we get a response immediately, and the response you get has some XML that shows you, or some JSON that shows you, here's a URL you can call to check on the status of this function. Is it queued up? Is it running? Has it completed? And so you call that other URL as many times as you want until you get a message back that, okay, now it's completed. So one of my co-programmers here went into CRM. He put a button on the screen called Expand-O-Matic. And when we click that button and he calls the URL, he puts up a processing screen that says Expand-O-Matic in progress. He takes the return URL, the status checker URL, he stores it into a custom field on the quote in CRM. And then if the person left that screen, came back into the quote, he has a process on open of the screen that checks to see, do we have a URL stored into that field? If so, put up the processing screen and let the user know they can't do anything else on that order until Expand-O-Matic finishes. And then every second he's checking to see, does the status call show completed yet? And once it does, he removes that URL, clears the screen, and puts up a message to the user. So we call the HTTP start. It calls the orchestrator. It returns back the URL to call for status updates. It also gives you a URL you call to cancel the process. So a long process that you might have, that's durable functions is the way to go. I asked ChatGPT when I was first learning about this, which was just a few weeks ago. Like I say, always be ready for an IT adventure. We're always, I have to say, years ago, I went to a custom programming course for SBT accounting software. Anybody ever heard of that? Way back. And the consultant who did the training said, welcome to the IT consulting business where you can't tell the experts from the idiots because everybody's always doing something for the first time. So that's the way I felt when we realized we're going to have to use a durable function. I didn't know what that was or how it all worked. So I jumped into ChatGPT and asked it to explain. And it said, I can set up a structure for you if you'd like, with a startup function and an orchestrator function and a startup, a simple activity function. And then I explained more about what I wanted to do. And I said, this process is very complex. And if something does go wrong while it's still rearranging this CRM sales order or CRM quote, I need to put it back the way it was before. So that's going to involve saving the XML that I originally got from Experlogics, representing the order in CRM. And then I'm going to have to delete all the lines on that quote and then use that saved XML, push it into Experlogics and call a save function and have it repopulate the original status. So ChatGPT said, okay, no problem. Here's your starter function. Here's your orchestrator. And your orchestrator is going to call a function called take snapshot. We'll get the XML and we're going to save it somewhere, maybe in the SharePoint document, Azure file storage. I don't know where, but still got to write that part. And then we're going to call into your start analyzing, start expanding. After you finished expanding, then verify and validate. And then if anything goes wrong along the way, there's a rollback function, activity function. And so the orchestrator is the one who's calling into the activities, checking the result of those activities, making decisions about what comes next, and then eventually calling back to the startup function and saying, okay, I'm done. At which point your status check URL will return back completed, or it will return back rolled back or it will return back complete failure. So that's what I'm immersed in right now. And I'm just so jazzed that Microsoft has all of these many technologies that we can use, that we can leverage to easily customize our environments. It helps if you have a programmer on hand. If you don't, your partner can do some of this. If you have the need, there's a way to get it done. My other programming buddy here, my junior programmer, just in the last 24 hours, well, he slept some of that time, created a little Canvas app for a handheld device that's going to track some inventory movements. He wrote an API into BC. Actually, he created a custom table with some flow fields and some other stuff that's going to be stored in there by this little app, some extra fields. And then he created an API into it, rigged it into his Canvas app, and he's got a little user interface where they can say, we're about to move to a brand new building. So it's just a simple little tracker. We're not going to do inventory transactions to transfer orders or items from one place to another. They just want to log what they're moving on the back of a truck over to the other building. And so quick and dirty, less than a day, he has it up and running. And that's Canvas. The ways that we have available to us to extend our BC systems and integrate them with other pieces of software are just thoroughly amazing. So I hope that's given you a little bit of a window. It wasn't too boring if you're not a programmer type person, but I just wanted to particularly paint the picture that there's so many things you can do and so many amazing resources that we can use to extend and integrate. A couple of recommended resources. I love this guy from Japan. He comes up in searches quite often when I'm looking for a technical answer to something. And he gives great examples with lots of screenshots. Eric Hogard, too, is just golden. If you ever had a chance to watch him at one of the conferences, create an app from scratch or an extension from scratch, that's well worth the effort. And another book I would recommend is from a technical point of view is Stefano's Mastering Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, second edition at least. He's got a lot of stuff in there about Azure Functions, Azure Logic apps. I don't even know what that is. But I'm sure it's good for something, and tying into Dataverse and moving data from here to there. So excellent resource there. And you can contact me anytime if you have questions about any of this. And it's been fun getting to know you. And maybe I'll pop back in as a user group member at some point.
There it is. Awesome. Thank you so much, David. And also such wonderful content. But at this time, if you all want to take yourself off and mute, if you have any questions in general or any questions for our two presenters today, feel free to, again, take yourself off and mute and let us know. All right. Well, with that, once again, thank you, David and Gwendolyn. And you guys enjoy the rest of your day. If you are out traveling, please be safe. And we'll see y'all next time.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.